in order to be a good human, good person in your community, you should have a close confidant a generation ahead of you and a close confidant a generation behind you.
Matt Woolley Podcast.
All right, let's roll into it. We have a very, very, very special edition of the Matt Woolley Podcast today. I am privileged to have on a fantastic guest that I didn't think was going to accept my invitation, but he did, like an awesome guy, Mayor Greg Hines. Mr. Mayor, it's a privilege to have you on.
Well, it's a privilege to be here with you today.
Okay, so as we do on the Matt Woolley Podcast, we get into who is Greg Hines. So you are a University of Arkansas graduate. You were an investigator for the Benton County Sheriff's Department. You're city councilman for the city of Rogers. You're the director of public safety for Benton County. And currently the 40th elected mayor of the city of Rogers, holding office since 2011.
Yeah.
That's quite the record.
It's a long time. I used to joke that, I put a lot of people in prison for life, death penalty, some of them life with possibility of parole, and even those folks get a date certain. So, yeah.
That's awesome. Well, when I looked at, when I saw since 2000, I was like, wow, you must be doing a good job, Mr. Mayor. So, where are you from originally?
Yeah, I'm from Rogers originally.
So you're born and raised Roger guy. So you've seen a few changes.
Yeah. So I was born in here in 1976, and the population of Rogers was 11,700. Wow. So arguably over 75,000 now. So pretty significant change in a relatively short period of time if you're looking at history books.
Yeah. Are you a city boy? Are you a country boy? Or
no, I grew up in the city.
Nice. Okay.
I'm pools over ponds and lakes. So I'm a very avid indoorsman unless I'm playing golf.
Are you any good at golf?
Well, I was really good at one time.
Mm-hmm.
I've had
in there.
Had a rotator, I had a bicycle wreck, had a rotator cuff tear, I had to have surgery on, and then I broke my ankle about 2 years later. So I just haven't. I'm going to get back into it.
I got you.
I got 3 more years and 2 months, I think, in office, and then I'll be devoting a lot more time to golf.
Oh, all right. Well, that's great. That sounds like a good plan. Well, okay. So tell us a little bit about your upbringing. So born and raised Rogers. So what is young life for Mr. Greg?
Yeah. So my grandparents, my dad's parents, moved here in the late 50s. Mm-hmm. They had both grown up in Central Arkansas, married.
What part of Central Arkansas?
One of them was in Clinton, Arkansas, and one was in Paris, London area.
Okay, yeah, all right.
So my grandfather, my great-grandfather from my grandmother's side was a dentist in Clinton, Arkansas, which was a very poor area at the time, and so dentistry was not quite what you think it is today, where every one of them lives in a McMansion. He bartered, eggs and other such things to pay off debt. And then my great grandfather had a couple of gas stations, a grocery store in the Central Arkansas area. So they met at Arkansas Tech, fell in love. My granddad went off to grad school, got out of grad school in Davenport, Iowa. They married, and he was sent overseas to France and for the military. And my dad was born in France, and then they moved back shortly after my dad was born. And we're trying to decide where they were going to settle up, and there wasn't a lot of exciting things happening in Central Arkansas at the time. Right, and so they weren't convinced that they were actually coming back to Arkansas. Mm-hmm. But a couple of things had happened. One was when they met in college, they came up to this area to go to Wonderland Cave, which is a cave in Bella Vista that used to have a nightclub in it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, really? I didn't know that. Okay.
And so they came up as college students to dance at the nightclub and have fun in this cave in Bella Vista, Arkansas. And so they had that fond memory. And then while they were making their decision, they the Daisy BB gun in Plymouth, Michigan had announced that it was moving to Rogers, Arkansas. And so they read that in the Arkansas Democrat Gazette. And, well, back then it was 2 newspapers. It was Democrat and Gazette.
I remember that conversion.
Yeah. So they said, well, looks like things are going well in Rogers. Let's give it a whirl. So they moved here in 58. My dad's the oldest of 6 kids. So a lot of generations covered in that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then when I came along, my parents were young when they got married. They did get divorced pretty quickly after I was born. So my dad went off to college, and I lived with my grandparents.
Okay.
So my dad's baby sister is about 10 years older than me. So I was just another kid in the, seventh kid, if you will. And so my upbringing looked like, a lot of freedom, because here I was, this little kid kind of being raised by grandparents, but they had already raised, or were raising 6 other children. So I got the benefit of the doubt of, man, by the time I was, 4 or so, I was, I had no curfew. I mean, it was just, daylight to dusk.
As long as you were staying out of trouble.
As long as you're staying out of trouble and not stomping on the neighbor's grapes or, tomatoes or whatever. We did some nefarious things, but nobody got hurt. And so, I feel like I had a great, experience growing up. I mean, grew up in the church, spent a lot of time there. And I think probably the most interesting thing or important thing for me to look back and to note about my upbringing was that I grew up at a time in Rogers before there were subdivisions.
Ah, okay, yeah.
We had neighborhoods.
Right.
And neighborhoods every house doesn't look the same. Right. And every house isn't the same size. And every house doesn't occupy a young couple with 2.5 kids and 1 dog and 3/4 of a cat. It's you have the 5,000 square foot homes, you have a 1,200 square foot bungalow, you have the old widow lady that bakes cookies, you have young people, and so I think that perspective was really important for me to just gain life experience, and to see the different perspectives of what community means, what life means, and so. I look back at that and I think going forward it's important, and that's what we're trying to do with downtown Rogers with the revitalization, is to create that old community space, neighborhood space where many people from many different backgrounds and many different beliefs and cultures can be together and learn from each other and experience life together.
That could be quite the challenge, though, couldn't it? I mean, the thing is Northwest Arkansas is moving at such a propelled rate. I mean, it really is. I mean, I've been here since 2002 from L.A., Lower Arkansas, and usually that gets a little giggle. But I've just seen since 2002 what this place has done, and now it's just like it's becoming this. Like the cities are blending together. Yeah. I think you're absolutely right. I mean, I've been saying this for years that I used to say we're going to hit a point where more people that live in Northwest Arkansas came from outside the area, and now we're there. Yeah. We're over that tipping point where more than 50% of the people that call Northwest Arkansas home did not grow up here. And so that also dovetails into, I mean, you could hold a gun to most people's head and they couldn't tell you where city limits end and begin. Absolutely.
Because they don't care. It doesn't matter to their life experience right now. So if that's what over 50% of the population of Benton and Washington counties are made up of, then isn't it incumbent upon us as leaders to recognize that they don't care about our city limits. And so what that means is, to me, in a lot of ways, in the simplest of terms maybe, is that not every city needs a water park. Okay? We have a water park that is as good as most, for-pay profit parks in the country. But Fayetteville doesn't need one as well. It's 20 minutes down the road.
Right. That is the beauty of Northwest Arkansas.
As I grew up here, it was this Friday Night Lights. if Bentonville built a new pool and we had to build a new pool, or if they got to do this and we had to get, and I feel like really for the first time that the vast majority of that sort of mentality it's gone from local government, and there's a real genuine sense of respect, admiration, and a collective understanding that we're all in this together. And so I think that's helped foster great relationships with the mayors.
That's awesome. I commend you for keeping that community spirit alive. I think that is one of the beautiful things right now still with even all of our growth is that we have, like it's still a little Mayberry. You know what I mean? It's still a little Mayberry. And to the, we have people come in from all over the U.S.,
all over the globe.
Yeah. And it's just in our business alone, and they come here and they're at first they're a little scared because they get off X and A. Where are we going?
Right. How many cows are we going to pass? How many dirt roads?
But they get into town and they start soaking up the culture, and they're like, And I think we see that too with a lot of the celebrity that we're seeing, and a lot of the, I had a friend that was going to, he was it Seattle? He was on a business trip, and he saw a billboard talking about Northwest Arkansas. That's crazy.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I mean, we just had, unfortunately, it was canceled for rain, but we just had the LPGA, and I grew up playing at Pinnacle, but then Champions. My grandparents were really early residents out there, and so I remember the Greg Norman Challenge. That not long after the course had opened, and the country club wasn't even done yet. They was still under construction, and there was a double wide trailer was the clubhouse, and we had Greg Norman here, and it was Larry Bird, Wayne Gretzky, and Yvonne Lindell played a threesome scramble against Greg Norman, and it was aired live on CBS.
Is that right? That's
and
awesome.
I mean that's in like '92.
I want to freaking YouTube.
That was yeah. There's tons of footage of it out there.
That's awesome.
Really neat event, and one that as a child at the time, or a kid, teenager, thinking, wow, this place I grew up in now has these, four icons of sports, pinnacle, representation of sports. And then you sort of fast forward and you say, well, we've had LPGA here for all these years. And to have the very best female athlete golfers on the planet come to Northwest Arkansas. It's one of their favorite stops on the tour. They call it the fifth major. Our purse is huge, but more so than just the purse, they love coming to Rogers. They love coming to Northwest Arkansas. My friend Ben Blakeman, I mean, he is the jeweler of the LPGA. I mean, these women and their families and their associates that come with them, like they forged relationships with folks in Northwest Arkansas that are just so strong and resilient and long lasting. And so, I think that says something to just the culture of this special little place, and that it's not one person or one church or one government or one business or one institution of university or anything else that's sort of forming how we respond to and react to growth. It's organic. It's organic, and it's just sort of cooked into the cake of what not only people genuinely feel here and feel about their life and their way of life here, but there's also this sort of unspoken expectation that if you're going to be a part of the fabric of Northwest Arkansas, like you're not going to be an asshat. We need you to be a good person and be a good neighbor. And if you're not, we're going to pretty quickly call you out and identify you as one of those folks. It's just not adding value to the community. And I think that's it seems awfully harsh and judgmental, but it doesn't mean we chase people out of town. It just means that look, you're invited here to be a part of this. And in order to be a part of it, you have to give too. You can't just be a taker.
Absolutely, 120%. I mean, you have to hold on to that core, 120%. Absolutely. And I think most people adhere to that.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
they want to get in on it.
Well, yeah,
you know
why not? Why wouldn't you want to have this kind of lifestyle?
Well, again, I've had friends come in from New York, and no slander to New York. I like the city. Don't want to live there, but we'll visit.
Yeah.
But they come here, and again, they're just like, I'm just taken back by how nice. I mean,
inviting.
You still get the finger, like you're driving. You know what I mean? You still have that.
Yeah.
People still do that, and that's great. Agreed. I hope we can hang on to that as long as we can. So, did you ever grow up thinking, you know what? I'm going to be mayor someday?
No, I didn't. I grew up, as I told you, my parents were divorced. So I spent my summers in Dallas as a young, chunky little white boy that didn't like 170-degree asphalt everywhere. So I don't have the fondest of memories spending my summers in Dallas.
Yeah.
But there are memories, and those memories consist of my grandfather was very successful in the clothing business, was the chairman of the board of the apparel mart in Dallas for years.
That's awesome.
And so lived a different lifestyle than what I was used to here. And I might have been enamored by that in many ways as a young child. And I remember he had a limousine and a driver and a bodyguard and his bodyguard's name was Greg, who was a former Dallas Cowboy football player. And so I remember getting to tootle around Dallas at my own will. Go,
you were Richie Rich.
Exactly. and so that was that was super cool to me. And I thought, gosh, this is what life should be. So I was really enamored with the idea of just making money.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
I don't know what I'm going to do when I grow up, but it's going to be to make a lot.
I like this.
And because this doesn't suck.
Yeah.
And then as I got a little bit older and started having relationships and met my wife, which we met in junior high, but we didn't start dating until high school.
Oh wow! So you're high school.
So we're high school sweethearts.
That's awesome.
But she hated me when we met. She couldn't stand me. She had transferred into our junior high in 8th grade, and I remember looking at her when the first day. I'm like, who is that? And so I, went to a mutual friend, and long story short, I at some point said, look, there's someday I'm gonna marry her, and they're like, yeah, she didn't even want to talk to you, so I think you might have some visions of grandeur. But with that sort of relationship, in moving on into adulthood, I had an experience when I was in high school. I guess I was maybe in my sophomore year. Anyway, it was before football practice started in the summer and after vacation. And, I was fine to just plop down on the couch and, be a couch potato. And my grandmother just, after about a week or so, she's like, this is not sustainable. You're not going to lay here the rest of the summer.
Good grandma.
Yeah, good grandma. So she volunteered me for Habitat for Humanity, which back then it was just starting in Northwest Arkansas. They weren't building houses. We were building wheelchair ramps and painting houses and, redoing soffits and fascia and gutter and that sort of thing. So I remember just, really hating getting up every morning and being dropped off at the work site and got your little sack lunch, and it's like, and so I was so angry, and I just didn't understand why I was having to do this, and then after the end of the second week or so, I was like, I saw the joy on the look of this lady's face where we had just painted her whole house inside and her living room, not the whole inside, but the living room and all of the outside, and the joy that I saw on her face. Mm-hmm. That someone had done something for her that she could not physically do for herself, nor could she financially afford to do it for herself. And that's when I realized that I was fed way more than her just getting a new house paint job. And so, some people figure that out early, some people figure that out late, some people never figure it out. I can think of an example of a couple of folks you'll see on national television a lot who don't care about anybody but themselves. and have never experienced that warmth of helping your fellow human get a step up. And so that really was the shifting point in my focus of life was that I want to do that. I want to feel that. And I got my real estate license when I was a freshman. And started selling real estate on the weekend, just kind of
freshman in high school?
No,
or college. Okay, I was like, is that legal? you zoom forward.
Yeah, that would have been.
That's still awesome, though.
And so, I tell folks sometimes, I look back and I remember the rush the first time I sold a big land deal that, got both sides of the commission of a 10% versus 6%.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
And so huge check, more money than I'd ever seen on a check with my name printed on it. Way, way, way more. And the rush of that, thinking, okay, this is, I could do this. And it pays. Versus the rush of the first time that I solved a stranger homicide that I was the lead investigator on. And they don't even remotely compare to one another. I would have told you that rush and that excitement and joy of getting two sides of a land deal, commission check, would have been unmatchable. Completely paled in comparison. And so that's when I knew I really was making the right decisions. But I wouldn't have gotten into police work had it not been for that experience with Habitat for Humanity, and had it not been a little nudge and a nod from some other folks that had been in local leadership. And so, running for city council at 22 years old is likely foolhardy in most people's eyes. And I mean, and truthfully, I look back on it and think, I didn't have any business being at City Hall, much less, having a seat with my name attached to it. But it is what it is. And so I also in high school had an experience to do what they call Student Government Day, sponsored by one of the guys on campus, one of the teachers on campus, that you basically ran for public office, not dissimilar to running for city council or student council. And so posters, handing out candy, whatever else. And so I got elected mayor. So I served as mayor for the day. Shadowing the then mayor, and then that was held on a council Tuesday night. So
who was the mayor at that time?
John Sampier.
Okay.
The 17-year mayor. And so we, the kids ran the meeting at night. The elected sat behind us and whispered what we're supposed to say. And so I don't remember saying it, but he recalls it at the end of that meeting. I told him that he needed to brush up his resume because I was going to have his job soon. So I guess you could say that's the moment I decided that I was going to pursue local politics.
Have you always been ambitious? It sounds like it.
Yeah, I would say so. And I think, I think a lot of that just comes from only child raised around adults. Mm-hmm. I mean, I spent the vast majority of my time as a child around adults. And so yeah, I mean, I'm kind of a Benjamin Button. I tease my wife. I'm like, you met me when I was 85, and I'm by the time I leave this earth, I'm going to be like a 2-year-old, and you're going to be changing my diaper. No, I'm just kidding. But I mean, maybe, I hope. I'm just kidding, to be honest. But that is an evolution of life for a lot of folks.
Yeah.
They either start out a baby and end up a baby, or they start out an old person and end up it. So
I say the same thing. It's that circle. Mm-hmm. It's that circle. You get to a point where you're progressing, and then you start to degress.
Yes. Yeah, I would agree. Well, my filter is, I'm too young to be degressing, but my filter is diminished greatly. 27 years in elective office.
Yeah, long time.
10 of which being a police officer and dealing with people's problems in their living rooms. And I mean, you just see a side of your community, and you see a side of humanity, and but you also see a side of, of our Creator and the beautifulness of the experience that we're all here doing. So, I wouldn't trade those experiences for anything. But my next gig will probably not be recruiting people to get into public service. After COVID and after what we dealt with, I mean, I would say after COVID and the tornado,
you've had a rough go.
It's not nearly as much fun as it was at one time. I can assure you that.
Well, let me take a step back.
Yeah.
So I get that, I see the desire to get into public service. So what steered you into the law enforcement realm? I mean, so where did you just say, hey, all right, because you could have done a lot of different things. But you went law enforcement.
Yeah.
And that's not exactly the, most illustrious position. But I'd also like to hear a little bit too about some of your some of your wins, because I was reading up on you. Really cool stuff for a young man.
Had some good experiences. I mean, had some really good times. And so I got elected to the city council.
Mm-hmm.
So current Congressman Steve Womack was a member of the city council. He was running for mayor against Sampier.
Okay.
He beat Sampier. Mm-hmm. So I ran for Steve's open seat. There were 3 people that ran. One of them had already been on the council for years before, but had to move out of his district. The other was a well-respected school teacher. And I was just an idiot. I mean, I was just young and dumb, and sometimes that's the best tool. And so, I knocked on every door in this city asking for votes. And so I won that election that night, 56%, I think, of the vote. So avoided a runoff in a 3-person race, which is pretty remarkable.
That's awesome.
Really remarkable for
How old were you at the time?
22. So I'm on the city council, have a real estate company, but I had been doing the part-time 2 division at the sheriff's office. I started doing that in April, I think, of '99, and so I was going through the part-time 2 academy and doing weekend. You couldn't ride alone, but you could pair with a full-time deputy. And so after I got elected to council and decided, I think I want to pursue this. I mean, I think this is a calling. So I don't need to, be like Cousin Eddie and hold out for the management job. I need to, get in here and figure this out. And I had worked at the golf course as a kid and, wrecked a Kubota and tore up a bunch of stuff. So I wasn't going to work for the street department. And I had this experience in the sheriff's office and was finding it to be really interesting and rewarding. And so Bill Clinton was president at the time. He had announced 100,000 new cops and 100,000 new teachers. And so Bentonville PD had gotten 3 of the federal cops grants positions. It was the first time they had added bodies in years. And myself, along with, 65, 68 other people, applied for those 3 positions, and I was fortunate enough to get one of them. And so that started off my 5 years. I did 5 years in the uniform division, Bentonville, and then 5 in CID at the sheriff's office before moving over to admin. So I feel like there's no better way to get to know your community. I think it allowed me to understand that while it's hard to believe that all of the problems that folks face across the street behind the gates at Pinnacle are the same problems that the folks out in the sticks in Avoca face. It's really not driven by socioeconomic conditions. It's not driven by racial conditions. It's not driven by your religious decisions, your political ideology. It's people share the same human experience on this planet. As much as we like to think we're so much smarter, so much better, so much this than someone else, we're not. There's way, way more that unites us that is easy to find in commonality than there is to find that's different. And so I think that was a really interesting life lesson to learn, and one that's just served me really well throughout, because, people are full of BS. They dress in all colors and clothes. And they come
It's true.
flashy and they come not so flashy. And so, that's one of the things that I've always, I don't have any special skills, and I'm never going to be the smartest guy in the room, but I have a really innate ability to judge people pretty quickly. And then to proceed forward with caution or not.
You've got good discernment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a God-given gift. I didn't do anything to earn it. I didn't do anything to develop it, really.
I'm the same. You get around people and you're like, you can automatically bond with somebody, and then there's somebody like, man.
I don't think my wife's statement about that, when we come across someone like that, as we're walking away or disengaging, she'll say, well, I don't think that they're going to be our friends. And that just means we don't, I have a lot of friends. I have a lot of family. I don't love all of them. So to say that I'm going to try to spend time with strangers that I don't, I'm not looking for any new friends. If someone comes along, that's fine.
Yeah.
But that's not, I'm not in a phase in life where I'm looking for new people to.
Well, I think as we get older too, having those tight, trustworthy circles are important.
Yeah, absolutely.
Have you always been a guy that had a tight circle?
Yeah, always had a tight circle. In fact, so the guys I grew up with, we grew up in preschool together. We're diaper friends, and we're still there's a group of 8 or 10 of us, depending on who's in town. And so we don't. It's funny, all of our wives, none of the wives were part of the friend group except for mine. So Lisa was the only one that grew up around all these people. All the other wives some of them were from Rogers, but they were older classes or younger classes. So it's just always remarkable when we all get together that all of our wives like each other and love each other.
That's a blessing.
And they've got their own group and text thread.
That's great.
They do their own social. And so
nobody minds getting together.
No.
That's great.
And that's not always that's not normal.
No, it's not.
And so I feel I've always felt blessed about that. And so my our pack is pretty thick. And growing old with your friends that you've known since you a child, I sometimes feel like I'm taking advantage of it, just taking it for granted until I see the reaction of somebody else's face when they hear a story or see us all out together, and I'm like, no, it's really pretty cool.
Yeah,
it's really pretty cool
for sure. Many people don't get to say that.
And I would say this too. My dad gave me some great advice growing up, and it's biblical, but it's and I've said this before. It's a fragmentedly biblical. It's not a proverb, but essentially, the message is that in order to be a good human, good person in your community, you should have a close confidant a generation ahead of you, and a close confidant a generation behind you.
120%.
And I've always adhered to that. Now I will tell you, as time goes on, it's becoming harder and harder for me to have that generation ahead, because they're all angry and want people off their porch, and they have recoiled into a place where they don't want to see any change, and they don't want to. I mean, and I get that.
Gotcha.
So the older I get, the sliding scale has to sort of move a little bit. But so I've chosen to double up on generation below. So I've got two guys that are just super good people, super good fathers and husbands, and that I get to share some life experience with them, but likewise they're keeping me young and keeping me from being that old angry white guy.
Yeah. I can say the same. One of the blessings that I've always had for whatever reason is all of my best friends, except for my oldest longstanding friend, that we've been just like you since we were wee guys, everybody's 10 years older than me. And that is such a blessing to me. Everybody thinks I'm older than what I am when I have conversations. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
Yeah, right.
I used to think it was a good thing.
I did too. And now I'm
not so sure anymore.
I agree.
But one thing it's blessed me with is I can see the fork in the road before I get to it. And it's been good mentorship, unintentional mentorship. Let's talk about that for a second. So I can only assume you've had some decent mentors come through your life. You got any notable people you'd like to give a shout out to?
Well, I mean, my grandfather for sure. We were my dad's dad, super tight. He grew up with 6 kids and loved them to death, and they shared some commonalities and a few things. But I mean, he and I were just like cut from the same cloth, and so to the point that we needed adult supervision around us when we were together. I mean, we had a lot of fun. So he's someone that I miss. My grandmother on my dad's side and my mom's side, so all play a very pivotal role. And then ironically enough, like just kind of to throw out there, I have a friend that she gave me my first job in real estate as a sales associate. She owned the company. She had been really close friends with my dad's mother and really close friends with my mom's mother. Her daughter and my mom were best friends. Her son, her stepson, and my dad were best friends growing up. And she's now one of my best friends. Awesome. 82 years old and just as smart as anybody you've ever seen, and has energy, and is just all about the future and what's next. And so what a blessing. That's really a cool relationship that I've been able to keep hold of.
It's fantastic. So how does that play into you having this mentorship in your life and having some of these this understanding? How does that play into your decision making when it comes to?
Not much at all.
Really?
No.
You just
you can try that for a while, but the first time you get sucker punched in the nose, and then you have to give a press conference and you have to somehow explain.
Has this literally happened?
I mean, not sucker punched in the nose, but yeah, it has. I mean, I took the advice of a lawyer that the people elected to represent Rogers, and I didn't agree with the advice. I was skeptical of the advice, but the people elected this guy to be the attorney for Rogers, and so I don't get to choose that. So I followed his advice. It was terrible advice, and landed us in a federal lawsuit, and we had to pay off a guy. Now, it was getting rid of a cancer within our organization. So ultimately, it was definitely addition by subtraction. There's no question that he had to go, and it didn't really matter what it cost. It could have been done for probably no money had we gone through some certain steps, but that didn't happen. And
was your gut screaming the whole time?
It was, and so I vowed at that moment after we got drug in federal court on that, I will never not follow my gut. Because if I'm going to be wrong, and I'm going to have to stand up here in front of these podiums with all those cameras out there and answer these tough questions and take it on the chin, I'm going to take it all on the chin. I don't want to share it with anybody because nobody likes it when you try to transfer responsibility, particularly not in a senior leadership role. That is a sign of weakness and a sign of that you're already probably over your skis in that job when you start trying to transfer the responsibility and blame others for actions that were taken under your leadership. And so for that reason, I will say, yes, I value all of those folks that have been mentors and have offered life, advice and have been supportive and right there with me the whole time. But no, I mean, they didn't run for the job. They didn't get the job. I did. And so, I don't like to sound crass or like a jerk, but I mean, this is not a democracy. It's a representative republic. I was the guy elected, and one Tuesday out of every 4 years, y'all get to decide whether that's going to continue or not. But until that time, I'm going to make the decisions, and I'm not going to apologize for them. I'm happy to offer explanation, but that also comes with
leadership.
Not too many people are in this role this long. I mean, if you just look around the country, I mean, the average police chief's like 4.5 years, average fire chief's like 7 years, average mayor is 1 term, a long-standing mayor's 2 terms. So the fact that Doug Sprouse and I have been hanging around this long, I mean, it's pretty remarkable, honestly, especially for communities that are growing as fast as we are. Because when you're growing as fast as we are, you have a lot of challenges. They're great challenges to have. I mean, hell, trust me, I don't want to go to Pine Bluff and have to, I don't want to be the mayor there. I definitely would rather have our challenge.
That's the area I'm from. So.
And at one time it was a great place to be. At one time, it was a
tough place right now.
As a child going there, it was almost like out of a movie set in some ways. But I think that it's remarkable that in some ways, I guess, and it's not a pat your back kind of guy, because that's not, I don't like that. But to be in this role for 15 years is...
Well, I've heard good things, if it's any kind of...
Well, I appreciate that. I try to just be very open and transparent, because that makes it easy.
That's the way that's the thing that I have heard about you, is that through the different circles, because I try to do a touch base, like, who's this guy? I don't know you. This is the first time to meet you.
Do you even want to? Yeah.
Well, I
get it.
I've had enough good people vouch for to say he's a good dude, but he's very transparent. But I am too. I tell everybody I'm as transparent as a window pane. If you don't want the honest answer, don't ask.
Yeah.
Because nobody deserves to be lied to. I don't like to pat anybody's ego. I talk about the good, bad, and the ugly.
Yeah, agree. Totally agree.
So if you don't mind, will it bother you to talk about 2020 at all? The stresses that you went through?
No, I mean, I'm again.
Now, I don't want to get into the weeds, but I know several people in the area.
Yeah.
Especially in government, it was such a stressful time.
It was, and it was. I think it was. It was probably one of the first times that I've been on a side of an issue that maybe the majority of my supporters were not quite there yet. And I say that, so I was very adamant about trying to protect public safety. And so, and I feel like, and people argue, but I feel like Governor Hutchinson was the best governor in the United States as far as his ability to govern through that, because you got folks screaming over here, my rights, my rights, my rights, and then you got folks screaming over here saying, well, yeah, but where do your rights end and the collective village rights begin? And that's where I fell on the deal was, and I tried to tell people that look, it doesn't matter what you believe. You don't have to believe in any of this. You can think it's all a bunch of crazy nonsense. But here's what I can tell you for sure, is that if you have the big one, Fred Sanford, if you have the big one today, we're going to transport you to the hospital, and you're going to sit in the back of an ambulance, or you're going to sit in the hallway of the ER for hours before you get treatment. So if for no other reason than just to make sure you get saved if you have the heart attack today, be smart. Let's try to keep folks out of our emergency room. And it just, it just caused the whole community to
well, there's no winning for anything.
There's no winning. It's all degrees of losing at that point. And so that's when I decided, hey, okay, instead of taking this approach of saying you have to do something, we're Americans. We don't like that. We don't like to be told what we have to do. We're free and we get to make our choices, good or bad. And so I thought, well, okay, instead of trying to be forceful and say you have to do this, let's try an opt-in program. So we formulated an opt-in program. It was called #KeepRogersSafe. It allowed local businesses to opt into our program. If they opted into our program, they had social distancing and masking requirements in their stores. They posted it at the front of the door, and this gave our business owners a lot of cover that they
middle ground.
They were asking for cover. Because no business owner wants to get into it in a confrontation, with their patrons. But if they can say, Mayor said, City Hall, I don't know, it's a lot easier, and it's a little bit disarming to whoever feels like their rights are being trampled on. And so it was a really successful program, and it did help to bring the community back around, and it caused some different conversations to be had versus just the, statistics show you can't breathe through, and then now ICE agents are around all over the country with masks on. So if you can't breathe with a mask on because of COVID, but you can, but I mean, like, I don't know. And you know, I'm just kind of a pragmatist type guy. I don't really get into a lot of rhetoric on any side of any political issue. In fact, that's why I have never run for any of those offices. I hate both sides. I can't stand the political parties in our country right now. And the reason I can't is because they're just not representing us.
100%.
You know, there's people within both sides of the parties that have genuine interest in you know, tearing down and rebuilding bad institutions or, you know, different. And that's the work, man. That's where the sausage is made. That's the kind of stuff I you know, pause. So anyway, I just feel like that time was like in dog years. It really was. And I told a lot of close friends and family members during that, I'm like, I don't think I want to eat part of this after, like, finish this term, but I can't. I don't think I have it in me. You know, and then you get, you know, you come back, it's just like having a baby, I assume. I mean, I don't know, my wife, you know, I don't profess to know what that's like, but I mean, you know, she did 2 natural births with not even an aspirin. And you know, she did the first one, then she wanted to do another one 3 years later. So I'm like, okay, maybe this is my birthing. Well, you know, like COVID was bad, but there's still a lot of good people out there. There's still a lot of folks that work for the city that come to work every day with a desire and a passion to serve their community. And if there's still some of those people around, I need to stick around a little longer.
That's awesome. Well, where's your head? So, you know, you got into that, and thanks for talking about that. That's great. That was great. And I appreciate your honesty. Let's talk, you know, the tornado for a moment. Now, obviously, we don't have to get into the details of that, but that you brought both of these instances up earlier in the conversation. Yeah. And, I mean, where does Greg's head go whenever you see, I mean, this one you saw kind of coming. Where is your head where is your head, oh crap, this has happened? And where's your head, okay, let's move forward. What do we, walk us through that, because I think that's important for people to see what the leadership goes through.
So yeah, we had warnings. But I've lived here my whole life too.
Right.
So
this ain't your first rodeo.
So, you know, we've had a lot of warnings that never materialized. Yeah. I mean, we hadn't had a tornado. The closest thing to a tornado, when, you know, we had one touchdown over by Hedbury Allergy Clinic about 4 years prior to this one. But I mean, it was a touch and go. Like, it just hit a corner of the building, turned a car over.
A splash.
Yeah. I mean, it was bad, but it wasn't, you know. And so I don't know that we really heeded the warnings like I should have, maybe. And not unlike Dan Scoff, you know, who's the one giving us the warnings. Both of us that day were celebrating our wife's birthday. So his wife's birthday is on May 25th as well. So clearly, and it was a holiday weekend, you know, so like family pool party, like, you know, so it was kind of late night. We got home, you know, I don't know. And I say late, though, like for us, like, you know, after 9. And
9:30.
Yeah, and so we're just like, gosh, you know, this day was so long. And so she and our youngest was home from college, and they went on to bed. And I remember saying, look, I'm just gonna stay up for a little while, just to watch and see, you know, is this gonna materialize or not? If not, I'll come on to bed. And ended up, you know, obviously never going to bed. And so my own experience was that we knew that tornadoes were coming our way. So like Lisa and Haley got up, went into the safe room, which just happens to be our pantry. It just worked out. That's just was the best place to pour concrete and all that. And so I came in, and then I went back and opened the patio door right about the time that it was 110 or 12-year-old pecan tree, huge pecan tree, in our yard.
Very dense. Yeah.
And so I see this, I mean, it fell, and it just covered our swimming pool. You couldn't even. So thank God the trunk didn't hit or cause any damage, but like just the foliage, it was so huge. You just couldn't. The whole backyard was just this tree, and I'm thinking, okay, this is real. And then when daylight started coming about, and I'm on the phone with folks, but I can't get out of my house. Every street is blocked. And so that about daylight, I'd say, was when it really started hitting. And we're still not getting a lot of really good reports about, damage assessments, life, injury. So it's probably, I think it was about 9:30. I was on the phone with Fox News weather, not the local one, the national one. So I'm kind of waiting to be transferred by station managers and all this. And right before that, kind of funny, I got a call from a friend that said, hey, I've got my helicopter ready. I'm at Bentonville Airport. I can swing over and pick you up, where I think you need to see this from there. And I said, well, I can't get out of my house, right? I mean, it's going to have to be somewhere close to downtown because I can't, I'm going to have to crawl out. And so he said, well, I'll meet you at Heritage High School. And so I literally, there's just trees everywhere covering the road. And they pulled all the power lines down with them. So there's power lines and cable lines all wrapped up in it. You don't have any idea which ones are live or not. So I'm trying to just cautiously I can get around. And then when I got to Heritage parking lot and got in the helicopter, we got up and started flying around the town. I mean, I was just devastated. And I remember thinking, I'm so glad that I took him up on the offer to do this today, this early. But then also thinking, God, I wish I was in bed and didn't have to be up here looking at this right now. And I know what the next days and weeks and hours are going to be. And I'm like, oh gosh.
Yeah.
But the coolest part about it, the most heartwarming part about it was that, before the sun goes down that night, our governor's coming off of her family vacation, left her family vacation to come back to Arkansas, to come to Rogers specifically, and to meet closed doors and to hash out some things, with FEMA and Adam, and then to have a press conference and come out with this sort of solid voice of, how we're gonna recover, and then just the days and weeks that led on after that I'd say the first couple of weeks were somewhat frustrating just because it was still kind of an elected officials disaster tour, which really doesn't help anything. We're really just in the way. And so that got kind of old after the first week, but then that died down. And it was like, okay, we really are into a recovery mode. We're logistically, getting things done that are going to affect the community. And then the leading months after that, I had made statements early on that I wholeheartedly believe in, and all it came to fruition. I said, folks, this is not unlike losing a family member. This is devastating to a lot of people. But then yet there's people that live out in the west side of town that didn't even know there was a storm, right? I mean, they don't even have a Bradford pear tree limb or anything in the yard. And then there's places downtown, there's, total loss, structural losses. And so you had a little bit of a divide there because not all the community really understands what we're all going through. But what I said was that, we need to extend space and grace to our friends and loved ones and just neighbors, because there's going to come a time when grace is going to leave us. And when she does, she's not rebooking a visit. And that happened. I mean, we had grace all the way till about January, February of the next year. And then folks just are losing their minds. Why is the library still closed? I had my roof replaced. Why can't the city do? Well, one, it's not an asphalt shingle roof on a 3/4 inch plywood sheet.
Right.
It's a roof system. Not to mention, it's a roof system that has been a pain since the day they cut the ribbon on the building 38 years ago, right? And then I'm not just dealing with Jake at State Farm. I've got FEMA I have to deal with too.
It's the whole thing.
So I got to negotiate with FEMA. I got to negotiate with Jake. And they got to all agree before we ever get a check, before we can go out and bid a job, so it's just folks just really didn't understand the complicated nature of the fact that public facilities can't just hire, a rented drunk with a hammer to go fix things. If we're going to do any work, it has to have an architect stamp on it because it's a public facility. And so the expectation of going into a public facility is that Billy Budweiser didn't, hang the light fixture yesterday with a staple gun. And so I tried to be very, just calm and try to, but at some point you're just like, look, guys, I get it that we're a town of 75,000 people and there's 80,000 people that think they can do my job better than I do. I get it. And that's fine. But I'm sorry, Karen, you're going to have to take just a minute. Let's have a little low carb snack and retool kind of where we're coming from, because no one could say this stuff and believe that anybody wants the library or the Victory Theater or the Adult Wellness Center, or nobody wants them open faster than me. Mm-hmm. There's nobody on the planet. And so it's just, I'm like, folks, you just
be patient.
Put yourself in my shoes. Yes. Just understand. So, it doesn't always work, but we try.
This leads to we're running out of time, but this has been absolutely amazing.
Well, good.
Where does your patience come from? So I can tell that you are a man that probably has his patience tried pretty regularly.
Yeah.
So where do you find the calm in the storm?
Well, so here's the thing. My former sheriff, Keith Ferguson, would say he used to just lament about my Irish temper. But he was also quick to point out that, I'm more like a bottle rocket than an M60. Mm-hmm. I'll shoot up in the sky and I'm going to, create a little spark and a big pop. But you couldn't put me underwater. I'm not going to kill any fish underwater like an M60 will. Right. So I think my patience comes from small outbursts of anger in quiet, secluded places where nobody can hear me. So if you see me driving down the road, you'll understand why my windows are a little bit more tinted than they're right at the legal limit, because I have conversations often driving between meetings just to regroup. But what really patience came when I gave it up. So I had, as you go through your life and your Christian path, everybody gets there in different ways. And I've always said I'm just fortunate because I may be the dumbest person in the room because I've never had that crisis moment in my belief. I've never had that aha moment of, well, gosh, world's not treating me well. And, why isn't Jesus coming down and taking care of this stuff for me? Mm-hmm. I've just never been that person that challenged that. Mm-hmm. And so likewise, I was trying to force something that I really wanted to happen in the middle of my career. And it wasn't happening as fast as I wanted. Mm-hmm. And so I had to give it up. And I had to switch my prayer to, God, don't make this happen for me. Let your will happen. And let me be smart enough to see it, embrace it, and follow it. Have the faith to follow it. And so it took about 8 months, and then what I had wanted actually came about. It just came about in a little bit different way, with a little bit different nuance, with a little bit different personalities, and the story was way better than had it happened on my timeline. So out of that experience, I learned you have to have patience. You can wreck yourself quick if you don't have the patience enough to slow down and discern. And to this day, I've never I'm not, since that time, I have never questioned why I need to be patient and listen.
Praise God for that.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Well, Mayor Greg, you're out of time. And I wish we could Joe Rogan this for like 3 hours.
Like 3 hours.
This is great. We could just keep going.
DoorDash
We just keep going. But I hope you'll come on again.
Yeah.
And I appreciate this
you
opportunity.
inviting me today.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure.
And, love to come back.
We'll do it again.
I got 3 years and a few months, so I won't be nearly as interesting after that. I don't know what I'll do.
Awesome. Thank you, sir.
Matt Woolley Podcast.